We made it to March, ladies and gentlemen, and I am so glad to be here.
It's fun watching everything just pop out of the ground and everything come alive right now. The birds are chirping, the robins have come. It's
fabulous.
Yes, and invigorating and all of those things.
That's a good word for it. Invigorating. I find myself unable to almost do anything else other than just be outside, be in the gardens, be with the animals, and get working on these gardens. We got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's exciting time. It's exciting because there's so much activity happening. Things are budding and things are just
coming back to life.
Starting to peep through, and it makes you want to just get active too. We've been able to take the opportunities just as things are starting to peep out of the ground. They don't need too much maintenance right now. And so we've been able to do just some of the other things that you don't want to have to be doing when you're wanting to plant and tend the gardens and whatnot. So spreading gravel and just getting things ready for the season ahead.
It's grunt work.
Right. And you don't want to have to do that kind of thing when you need to give your plants attention.
That's right. And I have been giving my plants attention. I set up a grow station in our root cellar right beside our refrigerator. And I am so pleased with how it's doing thus far. We've grown seedlings everywhere on tabletops and windowsills and kitchens and bathrooms and bedrooms and living rooms. And this is the very first year that they have their own designated area where I can care for them well, and people leave them alone for the most part. Imagine that. And this has been the perfect little station to grow our microgreens.
The microgreens have been one of those things that kind of sees you through the winter, and it just kind of adds that little bit of life.
And they're delicious.
In this odd time of year when the sun is out and it's 80 degrees in the greenhouse and it's beautiful, and yet there's nothing coming from the garden beds, not quite yet. But since I have a grow station set up in my house right now, I figured this is the perfect time to grow flats of microgreens because it gives you something fresh and delicious to eat. It makes you feel like you're stepping into spring, and it takes almost no effort whatsoever. I started this flat of microgreens last week. I'm going to show you how I plant them, but first I'm going to get these ones harvested. So there's 1,000 different ways that you can do this. I'm just growing these microgreens for our family. I'm not selling them at the market. I'm not trying to max our profits or anything like that. I really just want to enjoy them. So I'm not worried about a lot of the other things you would need to worry about if you're growing these commercially. So all I can do is just come in here with my knife and just cut them off. They don't have to be a certain length or a certain height. You can just let them grow for longer if you want. There's all kinds of cool devices that allow you to buzz these. I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to take what I can, just like so. And I leave the roots in. If you look at this tray, you can see there's actually some sprouts down here that didn't quite make their way up yet. And because I have more trays to work with, I'm just going to let this one grow because there are some in there that haven't quite made it yet. So we'll take what we can, stick this tray back under the light, and get a smaller second harvest from this one tray. I'm just pulling them gently because there's not much dirt in here, and you don't want dirt in your microgreens. These will go, they're really young and really tender, and they'll go limp super quickly. So after you're done harvesting them, rinse them under really cool water before storing them in some kind of Tupperware or plastic bag or something of the sort. Those little clam shells that strawberries come in at the grocery store work really well for this. Just keep one on rotation. You'll always have a place to stick them. All right. So we've got a nice, beautiful harvest here. I was just at the market last week. They had locally grown microgreens and they were selling for about $5. I would say this was about 2 batches. So about $10 worth of microgreens there. And look, you grew them yourself. So let me show you how I plant them really fast. These are plastic trays that I buy from Johnny's Seeds online. And what I love about these is that they have drainage holes. Now, the point is that you just need some kind of a container with some kind of drainage because the sprouts don't want to sit in their own water. So you could think of some creative ways to create something like this. But I love these trays that I can reuse them over and over and over and over again. So they're really power players in my greenhouse. This is a nice shallow one. It's meant for microgreens. And this time of year especially, I just keep my wheelbarrow full of, this is just an organic seed starter mix. And we're just using a little bit. That's really all you need. You really don't need much soil at all. There are grow mats that you can use. You just use them once. You really don't want to reuse soil or reuse grow mats because you don't want to risk spreading any kind of bacteria, which can happen. And so this is kind of a good way. And then when you're done with it, just toss it in the compost pile. Very easy. All right. That looks good. These are my favorites to grow. It's a mild micro mix from Johnny's. This is a spicy micro mix. And this is onions for sprouting. So you can do these separate and have different types of microgreens. I just mix them all together and do it that way. I don't do this very precisely. I'm gonna do probably a full tablespoon of each type. These are just super small seeds, so these will germinate really quickly. But if you wanna do microgreens with a bigger seed, like a sunflower seed or a pea, you'll wanna soak those for about 24 hours before you do this part. Just makes them that much faster to germinate. And really, I would never plant seeds like this in the garden, but the point is that these are really densely planted. So this is our spicy mix. I can't remember what's in this one. I think it has some arugula, maybe some radish. And then lastly, to make the onions a little bit faster to germinate, you can also soak them in water for about 8 hours. They lag behind the others just a little. And then just a little soil over the top. You can see why I do this out in the greenhouse. It can get a little messy.
For all the years that we worked so hard to grow a lot of our food, I find myself in the opposite predicament right now, which is making sure we eat through all of last year's food before we plant and harvest this year's crop. And so basically we're eating root vegetables 3 meals a day.
What is this that you've made for us?
It's a root vegetable soup with white wine, of course.
It's a good way to kind of work through the root vegetables.
Parsnips, carrots, potatoes, beets, blended up with, of course, heavy cream from the cow. And it doesn't get much better.
Makes for a good lunch.
Sure does.
As delicious as microgreens are, they're not going to see you through the year if you're wanting to eat from your gardens, especially year round. And it might seem weird, but now at the very end of February is when we start thinking about our crops that are going to hold us over all through next winter. So what I'm gonna sow now is a storage purple cabbage. When I first started growing, I didn't realize that there was differences in the varieties of vegetables that you grew. I thought a cabbage was a cabbage. Not true. There are particular varieties that are literally bred to last all winter. And that's what we're going to be planting today because I want my cabbages to last. So things like parsnips, carrots, cabbages, this kind of stuff will hold over in your root cellar or in your cold storage for a very long time. This is a hybrid variety that I get from Johnny's. I've grown it in the past and it just holds better than almost any other purple cabbage I've grown. It's called Ruby Perfection. Copenhagen Market is a really good heirloom green variety. We typically grow 2 beds, one of purple and one of green, just so we can have the variety in our root cellar. I'm just using my standard 72 cell plug tray. I like to keep things really simple. There's so many different ways that you can start seeds, but I find that these trays just are the simplest for me to keep track of. And so I keep 2 different types of drip trays. This is a solid one. You see here, there's 2 pieces. This is a solid one, so you can just fill it with water and basically the seedlings will self-water, which is really nice. If you have seedlings that really don't like to get their feet wet too often, then I put them in a drip tray which has holes, kind of like we did those microgreens, so that the extra water will drip out. Our storage varieties of carrots and parsnips, we start directly into the market garden in those long market style rows that you've seen on our channel. But cabbages like to have a little bit longer of a growing season, and I can get a really big jump on them if I get them started this time of year. And the cool thing is, in our zone, which is 7B, we can actually get 2 crops of cabbages in 1 year. So these ones we can eat on fresh through the summer, and the next batch we grow can really see us through the fall and winter.